Am I the a-hole for forbidding my girlfriend from doing household chores? A few years ago, while putting together furniture, my 26-year-old male girlfriend, 27-year-old female, injured her wrists from using the screwdriver. We ended up getting her some wrist braces until the pain went away. We eventually checked with a doctor who said it was no big deal. Since then, I have gradually insisted that she refrain from doing chores around the house. I noticed that doing these chores, sweeping, scrubbing, cleaning dishes, etc., would consistently aggravate her wrists, and she would not be able to work on her actual job, creating small handmade crafts that require a lot of wrist usage. I kept seeing the pattern of her straining her wrist on chores, leading her to bail out on her job after an hour or two and have to wear her wrist brace until the next day. She does love her job, and when things go well, she can happily work up to 6 hours a day on her crafts. Since I cannot do her job for her, I want her to be able to focus on it. I have no problem doing these chores, but today I caught her scrubbing a pan when I had just reminded her yesterday to leave them alone and told her to call me if I had missed one, and I would have hurried over to do it. She told me I am being overbearing and that she is fine to scrub a pan, but I do not want her getting injured or developing worse long-term damage. Am I the a-hole for insisting on doing the household chores? Edit some clarifications. I should have put forbidding in quotes. I cannot really stop her from doing anything besides maybe chiding her afterward. I am not her dad, haha. I have shown her this thread, and she agrees my version of events is more or less accurate, but she still feels she is right. It sounds like you may need a second or third medical opinion if it keeps flaring up that easily. Am I the a-hole for not shortening my workout for two strangers? Yesterday at the gym around 5:30 p.m., I started my leg day workout, which is usually the longest of the week. I was using the power rack to do squats, deadlifts, and good mornings, typically taking about 30 to 40 minutes. There are 3 power racks, and I was using one of them. I take about 3-minute rests between squat sets since I am doing heavy weight for low repetitions. While I was squatting, 2 girls, whom I will call Girl A and Girl B, started waiting behind me. Neither approached me to ask how many sets I had left, they just hung around. When I finished squatting and began re-racking my weights to prepare for deadlifts, I could tell they assumed I was done. I walked up to Girl A and asked if she was waiting for me to finish. She said yes, so I explained that I still had deadlifts and another movement to do. She responded with, of course you do. And I just moved on. As I set up and began deadlifting, both girls stood nearby, rolling their eyes and acting frustrated, as though I should be shortening my workout for them. I decided to be polite and ask Girl A what she wanted to do. She said squats, so I offered her the nearby squatting area since I was not using it. She declined, so I kept going with my workout. Meanwhile, another guy using a different power rack offered the same to Girl B, but she also declined. A group of 2 women then came up, and the girls complained that they had been waiting for 30 minutes and it was ridiculous. I ignored them. When I finished deadlifting, Girl A moved away to warm up. I approached Girl B, and before I could speak, she looked at me and paused her music, saying, "What? Hold on, I cannot hear you." I told her I still had 1 more movement to do and would need 5 to 10 more minutes. She seemed upset and responded sarcastically, "Okay, that is fine. I have already been here 30 minutes, what is another 10? I shook my head and walked away. As I started my next movement, I briefly considered shortening it to avoid further conflict, but then decided not to. I did not want to reward their rudeness by letting them dictate my workout. I have been lifting since 2016 and have always tried to be respectful and kind to others at the gym. When people ask politely, I do not mind sharing equipment, but the way these girls treated me was unpleasant. I continued my workout as planned because being kind is free, and I was not going to let their behavior disrupt my day. Am I in the wrong for continuing my workout despite their rude behavior? Not the a-hole. It was rude for them to try to pressure you off your workout. If someone is using the equipment I want, I go do something else until it is free. Am I the a-hole for not watching my nieces? I, a 22-year-old male, have recently moved closer to my siblings. I have 2 sisters, one with 3 children and the other with 2. Before I officially moved, I had informed my sisters that I am not a babysitter, as I knew they would attempt to guilt-trip me since I had been so far away from them for 5 years. Picking them up from school and occasionally hanging out at my place is fine with me, but I do not want babysitting to become a regular occurrence, as I have my own life and responsibilities to manage. I love my nieces and nephews, and when I was in high school, I would watch them from time to time. However, now that I am older, I want to focus on my own life and not be constantly regarded as the family babysitter. Apparently, I was not clear enough because last weekend, my sister, let us call her Anna, and her husband wanted to go out with friends from work. So she called me to babysit while they went out. I was particularly exhausted from work that night, so I declined because I just wanted to take a shower and go to bed. Plus, I know this particular sister would not be home until 1 or 2 a.m. She has always loved to party and never wants it to end. What I was not expecting was one of the biggest arguments between Anna and me. She called me selfish for not helping her out and claimed that I did not want to see her children. I was not exactly an angel myself in my response, I will not lie. She quickly involved my mom, who told me that Anna would do the same for me and that I should just do it as it would not hurt me. I was pretty annoyed at this point and reminded both of them that I said I was not a babysitter before turning off my phone and going to bed. My mom and some of my friends still think I was overreacting, and one suggested that I share the situation here. So, am I the a-hole for not watching my nieces, even though I clearly told my sisters that I am not a babysitter? Should I have just toughed it out to avoid all this drama? At this point, I do not know. Oh my goodness, not the a-hole. These posts are so ridiculous. This was not an emergency. You are under no obligation to babysit anyone's kids ever. No is a complete sentence. Stop discussing it. If anyone brings it up, walk away or hang up. Am I the a-hole for not reimbursing my friend for something I never requested? This happened about a week ago, and it is still awkward. My friend and I were at the mall just walking around, and we stopped by one of those small skincare booths. The lady was offering free hand scrubs, and I was just standing there letting her try it on me because it smelled nice. My friend was really into it, though, asking a lot of questions. I said I was not buying anything and even stepped away a little, but while I was looking at a display, my friend ended up buying 2 of the scrubs. They were about $35 each. Cool, whatever. But then as we were leaving, she handed me one and said, "Here, I got one for you too." I literally said, "Wait, what? Why?" And she just shrugged and said, "I know you liked it, it is no big deal." I thanked her but also told her she did not have to do that. Now fast forward to yesterday, she texts me, "Hey, can you send me $35 for that scrub when you get a chance?" I was confused and said, "I thought you were treating me." And she goes, "Well, I did not think I would have to pay for both. I assumed you would send the payment via Zelle later." What? I did not ask for it. I did not agree to it. And she literally said, "It is no big deal." I told her nicely that I am not paying for something I did not want in the first place. Now she is acting like I am taking advantage of her and says she would not have bought it if she knew I would not pay her back. So now I feel weird. I did not want it. I did not ask for it. But I also do not want to seem ungrateful. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, but if you have not used it yet, offer to give it back to her. But it is a weird thing for her to do. You were right there and would have bought it if you wanted it, and you explicitly said you were not buying anything. She does not get to decide that you are spending money. Am I the a-hole? My cousin moved into our house, and my parents expect me to act like her servant. Okay, so I female, 18, am a senior in high school, and my cousin female, 12, just moved from India with her parents. I live with my younger brother, 15, and 2 parents in a house that is big enough for us, but with 7 people now, it is getting cramped. For the first 2 months after they moved in, she slept in my room, and her parents stayed in our guest room. For context, my room is the smallest in the house. We made a makeshift bed for her, but it eventually got to the point where I could not even move around in my own room. Eventually, her parents got jobs and relocated to another state, but they allowed her to stay with us since she had already enrolled in school here, and they wanted her to finish the year. I have really tried my best to accommodate all of her needs and help her with her homework. I constantly asked what she was learning in India so I could compare it with the United States curriculum and teach her what she needed to know. I helped her study for tests, write emails to teachers, explained homework, and helped pick out her clothes when needed. I moved her clothes from my closet to the guest room and tidied up so my parents would not have to worry about the room being messy after my uncle and aunt left. Now, the issue is that my parents expect me to drop everything and help her whenever she has a problem. I do not understand why they do not ask my brother, or why she does not just look up the answers to her questions herself, like how to solve a math problem or who the 12th president of the United States was. I do not get why I have to help her write notes or memorize flashcards. I liked talking to her at first. I had not seen her for 6 years, but it is getting exhausting. I cannot pretend I want to sit in her room for hours, every day talking about things I do not care about. So I stopped. I started locking my door, putting on earbuds when I study, leaving for volleyball practice earlier, and going out with friends more, especially since it is my last year of high school. I tell them I am busy with college stuff, but it has reached a point where my parents are noticing and have had a talk with me. They say I am acting antisocial and making her feel left out. They say I do not go out of my way to treat her kindly, which I did. But I seriously cannot keep this facade going. It is my last year of high school, and I do not want to keep telling my friends I cannot hang out because my cousin is bored. My brother comes home from basketball practice, does his homework, and plays video games with his friends, and no one says anything to him. The thing is, I do not even think she wants to talk to me that much either. She locks her door, watches TV on her iPad, and calls her friends and parents occasionally. So I do not even feel like I am doing anything wrong, but my parents think otherwise. Sorry if this feels like I am rambling. I am. But I am just so frustrated that my parents think my whole life now has to revolve around my 12-year-old cousin. I do not think you are in the wrong. Explain to your parents that by doing these things for her, they are teaching her to be dependent instead of independent. She needs to develop study skills, and she will not do so if she is using you as a crutch. Inform them that you refuse to hinder her education in terms of homework because it is convenient. That is not fair to her in the long term. Also, tell them that to her, you are a full-grown adult no different than them, and you are not an appropriate social partner for her developmentally. She needs people her age to spend time with. Similarly, encourage her to invite friends over. Tell your parents that by not encouraging her to meet new people, participate in after-school activities, join clubs, etc., they are teaching her to be antisocial. Encourage her to do those things. She will feel better when she has friends her age to spend time with. At 12, an 18-year-old is an adult, but to your parents, an 18-year-old is a little kid. Are there children in the Indian community near you whom your mom and dad can connect her with through their network? Where we live, the Indian community is very close-knit, and they would go out of their way to include her in their children's activities.